And it's 12:36 where Nevada comes to talk. And we are going to, let me give you a roadmap of where we're going here. We're going to speak with Ely Mayor Nathan Robertson about the ongoing situations that we're dealing with here in Ely, particularly after we have had a case of coronavirus COVID-19 pop up in our community. We are also going to, at 1:05 after the top of the hour news, we're going to take you to a conference that was held this morning in Washoe County regarding their ongoing response to COVID-19. Currently, I think this number is wrong. I think it's 16 deaths statewide, 1,008 positive cases, including 1 here in Ely, 3 in Winnemucca area, 3 in Elko, 1, I believe, in Mono County, and they are popping up in the rurals now. So it's even more important that people not be stupid. And I guess there's no polite way to put that, Mayor Robertson.
Well, people just need to be careful.
Well, I mean, it's beyond being careful. It's not being reckless.
Right. Do what we're being asked to do, and do what we're maintain social distance and stay calm and wash your hands and those kind of things.
After the announcement of a positive test, we had at least one business that was operating properly. I have to give them the credit that operating properly announced that no, they weren't going to risk their employees any longer. They were closing, and that was Mr. G's.
Sure.
And I don't want anybody to be scared. I don't think anybody needs to be scared. I think we need to be conscious and be reasonable about this. And nobody's trying to panic anybody. Nobody's trying to scare anybody.
Right.
But the bottom line is we're in an era where there needs to be responsibility, and we need to take responsibility for our actions and be accountable and not realize, gosh, folks, you could be putting somebody at risk.
And that person might be yourself. So if it's not others, it might be you. So make sure you're doing what you've been asked to do.
And we have had people, by the way, who have been under that age of 60, who have become very ill, and a couple of deaths with no underlying health conditions. So you need to take it easy, folks. I mean, really.
Well, and like we've talked about, there's a lot of things about this that our health professionals still don't know. There's a lot of things about how it spreads we still don't know, but what we do know is social distancing does work.
Do you think that we're going to stay under these conditions until the end of April?
Well, and that's hard to say at the moment. We're kind of taking our lead off the stuff coming out of the governor's office. If they decide to extend that, we will be extending that in support of that as well here locally. And we're just going to have to roll with the information as it comes in. If that's the best advice, I'm sure that's what we'll be doing.
There's a study that's been released today indicating that Nevada will be hitting the peak of the COVID-19 on April 15th. Now, that's just the peak. And if we don't take our actions to reduce the spread of this, as we have been requested to do and we have been mandated to do, that could extend out longer. They're predicting more than 800 deaths directly related to COVID-19 in the state.
And that may be true. I haven't seen the report. I know we discussed it a little bit before coming on the air here, but just going back to there's a lot of scary information going around, and some of this does cause anxiety. I'm not immune to it, and I know people in my family aren't immune to it, and I'm sure nobody listening to your radio station's immune to it either. But panic doesn't necessarily help the situation.
No, and we're not trying to panic anybody. We just want to make sure that people understand this isn't some government plot.
panic is
and we get a lot of that.
Panic is a very natural reaction to a lot of this, I guess, is my point. But we need to just remain calm, stick to what we know is going to work, and do our best there. We have had our first diagnosed case here in the city of Ely, which was, they got the test results back Sunday morning at about 5:30. And there's been a lot of panic around that, well, who is it? How did they get it? Did I see this person? Have I interacted with them? And we need to have some trust in our professionals here. They're doing an excellent job following up with anybody who gets tested or diagnosed. Who have they come in contact with? Where do they work? Who do they work with? And making sure those people get contacted. So if you didn't get contacted, you're probably not at risk, or you're at a very low risk. And we just need to keep doing the same things. If you have no symptoms, just keep doing what you're doing. If you do have symptoms, call into the clinic. Make sure you're doing what you can do there. And it's been the same advice whether you have a cold or the flu or COVID-19. It's stay at home. Stay at home. Limit your interaction with other people, and do your best not to spread things around.
And folks, people say, well, we have a right to know whether or not we've been exposed. Well, if you were exposed, the hospital has already contacted you. If you were not exposed, you do not have a right to know. There is something called HIPPA. And that federal law mandates that information cannot be disseminated. You will know if you were exposed from this person. Now, again, it gets back to the same thing. Wash your hands. Don't go out unless you have to.
Right. And the hospital and our county health officer are doing a very thorough job at following up with people and interviewing people, and then working with the state to make sure we're tracking how this spreads. What I can tell your listeners is that this case in Ely appears to be due to them having taken a trip. I'm not sure where. That's all the hospital was willing to share with us on that. So it is travel related. We're not experiencing any community spread at the moment, as far as we know. And we will have more cases. It's just natural. This is what's going to happen. And as it happens, we just need to keep doing what we've been asked to do. That's the best course of action there.
By and large, and we have reports that people are in contravention of the governor's orders and the contravention of what the president has asked. People still insist on congregating in large groups, in parks, in homes. Nothing you can do about private homes.
Well, no, and that's the order is just anybody outside your home you need to stay 6 feet away from. You're not going to, you still need to hold your kid's hand when you cross the street with them.
Well, yeah.
If they're little. You still need to do those things. You will still be interacting with the people in your house. But anybody outside of your family or the people you're living with, you need to maintain that social distance.
And is there, and I don't know if you know, is there going to be any sort of, attempt to break these things up? If there going to be any sort of attempt to, when these crowds are spotted, is there going to be any attempt to just, tell these people, please go home?
Well, I know that the sheriff's office, if they notice somebody, they'll ask them about it. If they notice a group, I'm sure they will. But this is not the purpose of these directives, and these recommendations aren't for us now to become a police state where they're going in and sticking a 6-foot ruler between everybody and doing that. That's really not the intent. The hope and the intent is that we will take our public responsibility seriously and do what we can. And there will always be instances where I accidentally got too close to somebody, or physically I can't be that far away from somebody, but I'm going to do my best. Like we've discussed there in the studio.
Like right here, yeah.
I'm up against the wall and you're running your board there, and we're not quite 6 feet apart, but we're as far as we can. There will always be situations like this, and the point is to do your best. Sending all of your kids to the park with their friends to play on the equipment is not doing your best. If kids need to go to the parks are still open. We need to maintain 6-foot distance. if that can't be done, maybe you need to find something else to do. But the equipment and the basketball courts and things are closed. You'll see signage up around there. There's just no way to disinfect that. There's no way to play basketball and stay 6 feet away.
No.
There's no way to play soccer and stay 6 feet away from the people you're playing against. And unless you have a big enough family living with you that you can put together 2 soccer teams, that's just not the way to do that.
Yeah, and if you got a big enough family to put together 2 soccer teams, you got other things to worry about apart from COVID-19.
Many other things to worry about. That's for certain.
Is there, is there concern that there are people, and I know I hear it all day long, that this is an overreach or much ado about nothing? I think if we see this large number of deaths coming out of this, that maybe people will finally realize, but then will it be too late?
Well, and it's easy to kind of look at that and going, well, I'm not being directly affected. This has got to be blowing it out of proportion, and it's easy to see it that way, but we've got to trust in the medical professionals who are advising our elected officials, as and other leaders in the country, and our community leaders as well. They're basing their recommendations on fact, and our community leaders and state leaders are acting based on that information, and this is the best thing to do. I mean, their facts are out there. The information they're studying all the time, and we're adjusting, how we're dealing with as the information comes out. But right now, this is the best course of action, I believe.
Ely Mayor Nathan Robertson here on the Nevada Talk Network. I have to just, when you go into these meetings to talk about the emergency measures and the things that need to be done, and the things that, we're doing this and we're doing that, do you ever sit there and just kind of feel like it's surrealistic?
It is a little bit. I'm certainly having trouble gauging what my normal day is anymore. I think, I just walked out of that meeting. That's not a normal type of meeting to have in a day, but you're just so busy reacting to it that and trying to get things done that you usually don't have time to sit down and think about that. And that's just it is a little bit surreal. It's a different kind of scenario than what I think mayors are usually dealing with in the city of Ely, but I appreciate all the help from city staff and from county officials and staff and from the community members, and for all they're doing to do their best to comply with stuff. Their cooperation has been key to this being as successful as it has.
I'm going to detour just a little bit because we had an incident on Friday that we were breaking here about what happened with Sergeant Jenkins in White Pine County.
Yeah.
And we kind of became the epicenter of what ended up being a national news story. And I had to report a national news story, which I'm not used to anymore. But you had to, even though people were not properly socially distancing on Saturday, those images of the people packing Altman, packing Great Basin Boulevard, to salute Sergeant Jenkins, that had to really make you proud of our community.
Yeah, I mean, our community has always had a really strong respect and deference to our police officers and our law enforcement. They do a great job of supporting them, and to see that kind of support come out for someone who's not necessarily from our community but still wears the badge and serves our state, I think was a great thing to see. I read a portion of what Sheriff Jesse Watts had to say from Eureka County, and he was so touched by the response of the people of Ely, of the people of McGill, of the people of White Pine County, Elko County, sure,
Wells. I mean, anywhere it was a community.
Yeah, coming all the way up to the state.
They were all packed along the streets. Over 100 police cars in that caravan going up. And that, in the midst of this pandemic that we're dealing with,
sure,
to have this sort of tragedy happen, and then the people all come together for something that's very unifying.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we could unify the community and galvanize them as well around responding to this as they did on such short notice. And the people out with their flags,
Sure.
and lining and saluting and waving to all of these law enforcement officers and first responders. Why can't we do something even simpler, which is wash your hands, social distancing, stay at home, don't take... This is the dumbest thing I have seen. We're in a situation which is life-threatening. And here we have people taking their kids to the grocery store, going with the whole family to the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
This is not something that we need to be doing. Am I right in that?
Well, and everybody, by and large, Wyatt, I think most people are doing just the best they absolutely can. There will be instances of that. Maybe you'll see a bunch of kids with a parent at the grocery store. Maybe they couldn't leave them at home, or maybe they didn't realize. And this is part of kind of our community response, is if you see something going on at a store or maybe at a park, maybe approach one of the employees or kindly ask somebody about, hey, were you aware about this? Or what is the store's response to things like that, so that we can know and educate other people. If there's anybody willfully disregarding this stuff, I'm not aware of them, and I'm hoping that, those incidences are few and far between, because by and large what I've seen is business owners and community members doing their best to be socially responsible and civically responsible. There will always be some people in there, and once again, this is new territory for just about everybody. And so maybe they hadn't realized, or they didn't quite understand, and kindly approaching somebody like who might not be complying, or that you notice, hey, this isn't quite what we've been asked to do. Maybe that's the route. Maybe that just wasn't available to them that day. I'm not sure, but.
And I have a friend who works at one of those big box stores that's still open down in Las Vegas, and a customer told this person, "Oh my gosh, I'm still glad I still have some place to come and hang out with people." People don't understand. People, we try to educate people that it's not this or that. It's just, folks, this is not playtime. The governor may, and that was the other thing I was going to bring up, and I was hoping to bring it up with our district attorney, that the governor's order yesterday suspending all evictions,
right,
and that sort of thing. Is there a city reaction to that yet, or have you really looked at it enough yet?
I watched the governor's press release about that yesterday, and the city doesn't really have a lot directly to do with evictions. I mean, we'll be putting that information out with any press release, like we've been doing the other governors, the other information coming out of the governor's office. But we're just, a lot of his stuff is, and I think he's moving in the right direction, is just trying to make sure that during this economically fragile time that we're keeping people as safe and housed as possible, and while straddling the line of making sure that we're not just shifting problems to another demographic. If you have questions about that, and this was the best thing to come out of his press release too, is if you have problems, if you're having food vulnerabilities, or you're worried about being evicted, or you're having trouble making rent or mortgage, call your lender, call your landlord, work something out. We're all in this together. This is affecting everybody one way or the other. But make sure you're talking to people, that you're not just, disregarding obligations you have, but talk to those people that you have obligations to, and see if we can't work something out.
And you're back at work tomorrow morning early, right?
I'm back at work, bagging groceries, checking bananas.
Yeah, for those folks who aren't aware, our local grocery store here in Ely is opening at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week, for people over 65, which means I can't go in before I come to work. We got the older folks in there, and a lot of folks are volunteering, members of the sheriff's office, and our illustrious mayor is developing skills for a second career.
There you go.
Should the political thing and should his small business not work out, he's keeping that. How is this affecting your small business?
It's slow. It's slower than usual, just because you got a lot of people who, if they can wait and stay home, they are. We still are serving a lot of the traveling public who are coming through trying to get home amidst all this. A lot of snowbirds and things, but it is slower, and I'm glad to see it slower, at least in one aspect, because it means people are staying home.
It's a dangerous and treacherous situation right now, and we just hope that we can roll on and keep people safe. And like I said, stay home, wash your hands, don't go out unless you have to. Do get out in your yard or around the parks and get some of this good sunshine while we've got it.
Yeah, we should have some nice weather this week, and make sure you step outside for a few minutes every day and breathe a little bit of fresh air and get some sunshine, and that'll help.
Vitamin C, vitamin D. Go to the store and get some fresh oranges if they still have some.
There you go.
Because well, that's one of the things, you know.
Take care of yourself.
If you allow your immune system to be compromised, then you are in trouble of possibly, if you don't contract COVID-19, there's the flu, which is still around, and we still have lots of deaths from the flu.
Yep, we want to stay as healthy as possible.
If we don't...
Mentally and physically.
Mentally and, well... Let's leave the...
We'll leave that one line.
Let's leave the instability of Facebook out of this.
There we go.
We have beaten them up not nearly enough. Folks, don't believe anything you see on Facebook unless it comes from this radio station, from the city of Ely, from a governmental agency, because they're going to pass along to you the absolute fact and the absolute truth. Ely Mayor Nathan Robertson has spent some time with us today. Hopefully we'll talk with him tomorrow.
I'll be
back.
back.
Also have the chance to talk to our district attorney, especially since we now have an open murder charge to talk about. I know he can't talk about that, but we were talking about that the other day.
Yeah.
And we'll hopefully get on with that. All righty, here's what's going to happen. USA Radio Network News is up next. We will also bring you the press briefing earlier from the city of Sparks. That'll be coming